Hello, everyone, and I warmly welcome you to our summit for the Energized, Empowered Professional Woman. We are so happy to see you here. We are currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So pop your comments and questions and your takeaway aha messages in the comments. Whether you are listening to this live or in replay, it's all great. We will be checking those comments and we'll be interacting with you as well. And so please do that. We would love to have you on there as part of this summit, because this summit is really about helping you, about giving you full support, because we are a dedicated group of women from all over the globe who are here to help you leave behind exhaustion, frustration, and burnout to confidently take back your life with renewed energy and vitality. And we're going to be doing this by having raw and real conversations on how to identify, communicate, heal, and prevent burnout. We have some amazing bonuses from all our speakers as well. So stay tuned and have a look at the website, because that's where they'll all be, and we'll be describing them later. But let's start this beautiful interview. I am Vanessa Mollard, and I am so excited and I just really excited about this interview with Dr. Tomi Mitchell. So welcome, Tomi.
Hello. Well, thank you for the invitation.
It's an absolute pleasure. And I would love to introduce you. I came across your work, Tomi's work, in Thrive magazine, and it was talking about childhood trauma and how it contributes to burnout. And I looked into her work even more, and I loved her energy, and so I thought, I was going to invite her to speak about her work and her experience around all of this. So yes, it's really exciting. She said yes, and I'm like, yay! But please let me introduce Dr. Tomi Mitchell to everybody. She's a board-certified family physician and wellness performance coach. And she's so passionate about helping others to reach in and pull out their innermost potential. She's a speaker, educator, and soon-to-be author. Wow, we'll have to talk about that, I think. And she really coaches her clients worldwide using her holistic wellness strategy, and offers a clear path forward, including the tools that they need to create lifelong balance in their personal and professional lives. And she uses her 4 fundamental principles of family medicine to guide her whole wellness practice, so that her clients can achieve their goals and overcome overwhelm and burnout. And she has been featured in multiple times in Ariana Huffington's Thrive Global magazine, and Kevin MD, the leading social media platform for healthcare professionals. She also is an executive contributor to Brains magazine, a leading European professional magazine. And she regularly contributes to Eat This, Not That, and straightforwardly provides practical and health advice. So that's, wow, you are absolutely an inspiration. Thank you, Tomi, and welcome.
You're so kind.
Oh yes, I'm so excited to have you here, and like with all our speakers, I would love to hear from you your beautiful story about how you came about helping people with burnout and everything that you do.
Yeah, so I had an aha moment about 3 years ago, and I was tired, exhausted, frustrated, cynical. And the cynical part is what got my attention, because that is not me. I'm a happy-go-lucky person. You hear my feet clicking in the hallways and my laughter. And I realized I hate what I'm doing. I'm not happy with my life. I'm exhausted. And I had to pause. For the first time in 30 some years, I took a break off work, and I took the time to heal, to evaluate, to study, to really understand me. And thankfully, a few months later, I was the happiest I've ever been. And it was
Wow.
noticeable. And I'm like, okay, that's me. But then I also have patients who I've seen for over a decade. And I reflected on a lot of their challenges. And being that it was COVID, a lot of people came with mental health concerns.
Hmm.
And I recognized that some of their challenges, many, were rooted in early childhood experiences. And then I
Wow.
started this journey with
Wow.
exploring how to help others.
Wow. And that's been that really the reason why it was brought home to me was because I lost my mom when I was 13 through cancer, and at 7 she got really sick, and so that kind of impacted on how my childhood was, because I couldn't just run out the door and play. I always had to look after mom first, and then see what else is left.
Yeah.
um and so when she passed away at 13, I had a limited childhood, and also felt abandoned by it, and it was a sort of a form of trauma, really.
Yes.
And it wasn't dealt with simply because I'm 50, over 50 now. So in those days there was no concept of counseling, particularly in the Malaysian society. It
Yes.
was like, yeah, I remembered when I was going to cry when we passed on, and I was told, and this was all told out of pure love. It's not, there's no malice in it. Where they said to me, "Don't cry, be strong, and for your dad."
Yes.
And that really, I went, oh, and then I kind of suppressed everything and cut everything off after that. And so when I read your article on that, and I just went, I think I had a moment where I had tears fall down, because then it just went, it it's not my it's not my fault.
It's not
It's
your fault.
and it's not anyone else's fault. It's just the way it happened. But it was that trauma of mine. And so, I come here with an open heart to you, and for you to explain to our viewers, to people listening, how you've seen that affect
Definitely.
people.
Definitely. So when I talk about childhood trauma, I'm going to give a pretend story. Okay.
Yep.
Little
Yep.
Johnny's 5 years old and he lives with his mom. And his mom goes to work in the morning and in the evening because she's a single mother. Little Johnny's tired. He's lonely, right? He thinks mommy doesn't want to spend time with me because that's what his little brain process because mommy's not there. And then over time, he's like, I'm not important. He gets a little older, maybe 6 or 7, and this is still going on. And he says to himself, mommy doesn't love me. I'm not lovable. And little do we know, little Johnny carries that. He carries that in relationships, whether romantic, professional, or anything in between. He feels that he's going to be rejected. So he almost sets himself up for rejection, right? So those messages, those experiences we had in childhood, and it doesn't have to be something horrific. It could be something that to others may be trivial, but to you it's important. So let's recognize that trauma comes in many forms.
Hmm.
And it starts to shape your beliefs about the world and your identity with you. And that affects the way you think. So as you think, that reflects your behavior. I relate that to my life. Um, I was raised in a family, obviously immigrant family,
Hmm.
and it was a struggle. And I was constantly told, you must work 10 times harder than your colleagues before they'll acknowledge you were good. And I heard that at an early age, all throughout school. And I saw it, maybe not 10 times, but in my head, I have to work 10 times. So I ran with it, and I ran with it for a very long time until I, like many of us, burnt out.
Yeah. And that's that's the stories that we've been told, and that's
Yeah,
the stories that, yeah. and and as you said, we then accumulate those stories, those
exactly.
experiences. Yeah. and
Exactly.
and and as a woman too, and it doesn't matter, of different, we're all of different backgrounds and
Yes,
different things, and we're told, yeah, you need to work 10 times harder, you need to do this, you need to do that, and you carry that, as you said, throughout your life, and you just go, oh god, and it's subconsciously too, so you keep doing
very
it over and over again. Yeah, I
exactly.
can really imagine. And so when you come across people with this sort of trauma behind them,
Yes,
and it's not only childhood but could be cultural, could be gender based, in terms of uh, women, and our LGBTQ family.
yes,
How do you help them? How do you what is it in what have
yes.
you noticed that really helps?
Well, with empathy, so when they come to me, they usually have something else. They say they're frustrated with work, they need time off
Mhm.
work, it's something else. They just don't recognize that the root cause is trauma. So I typically don't lead with it. Like I don't call myself a trauma
Yep.
coach because many
No.
people are like, I didn't, what trauma? What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but at the end of the day, whether you're coming for wellness performance, I'm going to go to the root, and that is early childhood experiences. And I'm actually going to take a little step backwards.
Mhm.
It's it starts with your mind, the way you see things, whether how you judge. Maybe you judge people. We all judge people, by the way. People pleaser, hyperachiever, stickler. We have these what we call saboteurs that are good for a second to help us evade danger. But when they're used chronically, constantly, it becomes a problem. And then the right side of our brain is the sage, where it's empathetic, where it's creative, where it sees an opportunity in challenges. So I actually have a two-track way of approaching them. I introduce them to the neuroscience of
Mhm.
positive intelligence. And then we also start with a fundamental principle where I talk about my three E's. Embrace. We have to accept the past happened. Okay?
Mhm.
Embrace the present and look forward to the future while managing your expectations. That is very key. Some of us have, and I've been guilty, unrealistic expectations of others and of ourselves. Right? So that's the first. The next is evaluate. We briefly evaluate the root causes of the challenge that they're experiencing, right?
Mhm.
Because it's rarely just one problem. It's not just work stressing you out. That's please. I've yet to see someone that's purely just work.
Mhm.
Um, and then finally is energize, where you take empowered action with accountability. Okay, so the mental fitness, which is the brain foundation, we have a global look at it, and then we
Yep.
start breaking it down in a holistic approach using the wellness wheel, because health is not just physical, it's mental,
Mm.
emotional, intellectual, it's environmental, spiritual, financial. And over time, like this is not a one session thing. This is, I have clients going on year 2. It's a gradual process.
Right.
Yes, we're able to connect the dots from early responses or messaging heard from childhood and how you respond to stress to how you respond in the workplace.
Okay. Right. Yep. And you mentioned, like, the first step is the neural programming.
Yes.
I'm really fascinated about that because being a scientist, and also that we're actually what they call neuroplastic.
Yes.
Um, and that means that we can actually reprogram ourselves, if we choose to. And I would love to hear about, your what how that works, and why that would work, and how what are the practices that you help people to do.
That's a really good question. Unlike you, I'm actually becoming more and more like a science brain nerd because this actually was a new concept that was I was presented with last year,
Hmm.
and I took the opportunity. And I went, aha, that is like the glue. That is a missing link between short term results and long term results.
Yes.
Because, like you said, the brain is moldable. We used to think that our brain was fixed, can't teach an old dog new tricks. That was kind of the
Yep.
mentality. But it's far from the truth. You can. And over time, like imagine if you're going through the woods and you take the same path over time. What happens to the floor in which you're walking on? Well, it becomes,
Mm.
you get a trail, right? The same way our neurons are little wires that fire to each other and communicate, okay? Over time, we build that trail in our head without even thinking. And that trail could lead to people pleaser. That trail could lead to hyperachiever because you thought you weren't good enough because people told you that. Our trail could lead to being a stickler, being very rigid, right?
Yep.
And that's most of us because that's how we started evolutionary on the left because we had to survive. It wasn't like life was great when humankind first walked the earth, right? So we want to switch to the right. And this is the creative side. This is the joyful side. This is the side that you release like hormones that make you happy versus the left is more cortisol and stress. Okay. And we do this through a very simple technique. It's called PR rep, where I'm not going to, it's kind of hard to explain right now, but basically you basically focus on, let's say your fingers, like you put your hands together and
Mhm.
feel your fingertips. So when a negative thought comes, okay, that may say,
Yep.
I'm stupid. Okay. You have to first intercept it and be like, okay, this is the negative talk. You know, ground yourself, clear that mind, and then release something positive. It honestly, when a couple of years ago, this would sound very corny to me, but this is actually proven. Like Stanford researchers with over 500,000 participants have gone through this program and people are being blessed today. And I am a product of it. So it's called positive intelligence.
Positive intelligence.
Yes.
Right.
And we actually have functional MRIs now that actually
Mhm.
show where the brain lights up when you're going from the negative pathway to the right. It's not hocus pocus, it's real. So, like I tell my clients, success, everything begins up here. It's a mind game. And that is where you leverage your playing field. That's the leverage
Ah,
part. It's here. It's not how good looking you are, how many connections you are. Honestly, it is your mental game. So that
wow.
is, I don't want to level. Level is just ordinary, right? I want my cup to be overflowing. We talk about glass half full, half empty. I
Yep.
want to be overflow and then give of my overflow so I'm still full. Versus my
Yep.
burnout days, I was empty, you know, like done. Like I couldn't do anymore.
Yep. Yep. No, I get it. And that's really exciting. And that's where I really like your title where it says leveraging the playing field strategies, because you're leveling that field. You're coming from a base where you think you are not worthy, that you don't have the right whatever
Yeah.
background, thingy, gender, whatever, all this. And it's all trauma, by the way. And it affects, as you said, the brain,
Yes.
because we tread down those paths, and some parts of our brain don't connect with other parts that allow empathy, that allow all these beautiful positive emotions. And we're
Yes.
so used to sticking in that bit that now we've hamstrung ourselves, I guess,
Yes.
subconsciously. And so to really leverage that,
Yes.
the strategies, is a really good way of putting it. I like that.
Yes. And I want to add for those about the PR technique. This
Hmm.
app that you use would you get daily prompts. So it's not like, okay, what am I doing? You're actually guided through this through the day, like multiple
Okay.
times a day. And that's what
Right.
I provide my clients with.
Okay.
Open logins. We work together. We do group meetings weekly, and we encourage each other. And it's such a heartwarming experience to hear the stories of how they went from feeling like blah or so to just really understanding how to communicate better with with their partner, with their coworkers, understanding why they're exhausted because they're constantly people pleasing and taking on more and more and more and more and more. Remember, burnout is basically an equation. Your energy outputs is greater than your energy inputs, right? So
Right.
you got two
Yeah.
choices, right? Increase the energy output or take out the reduce the energy, increase energy in, like slow down with things that are sucking your energy. And in my
Mhm.
book that will be coming out this summer, fall, I talk about energy vampires. And those are things in our lives, it could be us, it could be objects, it could be most of the people, that suck the joy from us. They're also on the energy output side. They take away.
Right. Okay. Wow. Yeah. No, that's looking at burnout as an equation is fantastic. I like that idea,
Thank
and
you.
it's a good analogy for that. It's really yeah, it's very powerful, and to be able. So your book then deals with being aware of what those energy vampires are. Then
Yes. Well, there's a chapter in it. My book has a long title, but I guess this is me closing a chapter of my life. It's
right.
called
Yes.
The Soul Sucking, Energy Draining Life of a Physician: How to Live a Life of Service Without Burning Out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Um.
there's many chapters in it, but I mean, definitely I do dedicate talking about burnout because that was my experience.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep. And I'll have to get that of you and I put that on the website as well so that people will look out for it
Yeah.
and when it comes out that they contact you as well so that they have updates for when it comes out. So that's fantastic. I'll put that on. I'm so excited to hear that that's coming in the background.
Yeah.
And I would love to ask you if you have an example of someone, a story of someone that you've helped that has gone through that sort of trauma and how they and what improvements they had in their life and how they are right now. Obviously, no names, but it's just that also that story of inspiration and of hope for people.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just gonna use a hypothetical situation. We'll call the person Johnny or John.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah,
You
yep.
know, Johnny was exhausted, frustrated with work, been grumbling about this for a year to me until he
Hmm.
finally hit the point where he's like, I need time off work. I have a very challenging manager. I need a break.
Yep.
So I supported Johnny through it. But while we dealt with, okay, you're off work. What are the challenges? I realized there's an undertone to this.
Mm.
The manager reminded him of the mother because the manager would always say, "You're not good enough. You don't know what you're talking about." We belittle her and sorry, belittle him, Johnny, and that would really wear down his confidence. So
Hmm.
it was like he was reliving his childhood experience. And now, some people have very interesting dynamics. There might be multiple people involved, especially if it's not just like a mother. And that's a whole new conversation with the mother wound, especially if it's not the best. It could be a father, it could be a sister,
Hmm.
who knows? But the point is, he had multiple challenges that started in childhood. And when we look back and evaluate his life, the ups and downs, the breakups and makeups, everything else, we were able to pin it back to early experience. And it took Johnny a year before he said he was ready to work on trauma. I don't
Wow.
lead with trauma,
No,
right?
you don't. Yep,
Don't lead. And
exactly.
they usually don't come because they think they had trauma. So many of us, especially high achieving individuals, we suppress, we just keep on going, we don't quit, we bury it, we put it on the back burner, we put it under the rug. And I say, you can put it under the rug, but eventually you're going to trip on it, right? Whether it's going to
Yeah,
show up in your
yeah.
life. So you pretend all you want, it's there. And the body keeps score, it remembers. So it's a journey. It's a lifetime journey because we're not erasing past memories, right? What we're doing is finding healthier ways to deal with challenges as they come across. A, recognize them and take a moment, breathe, pause, take a breath, and then a more positive response. The goal is, let's say a memory causes you to cry, really get frustrated. The goal is that when you think of that memory, it's like water off a duck's back. Like it's there, but it doesn't cause you that stress.
Mm.
It's not
Yep.
impacting you in the background because everything you shoved under the rug on the back burner is affecting you. Cortisol stress does not quit. Okay. And cortisol can increase your risk of every cancer out there, high blood pressure, you name it. So it's there. It's playing in your subconscious mind. You might not be aware of it. It's there.
Mm.
It's like
Yep.
huge weight on your back. You don't realize that you're carrying.
Yes. Yep.
And I find when people finally deal with it, it's when they're in work, stressful work situations. That's when poop hits the fan, so to say.
Yes.
And that's when it rears its ugly head and said, okay, I'm here.
Mm.
And ideally, they find help,
Yep.
right? But in some cases, they don't have help. They don't know to have help, but they refuse. Who knows? And then you could turn to maladaptive ways of dealing with stress, whether drinking, drugs, gambling, excessive, whatever it is. Too much of a good thing is not a good thing, right? So
Yeah.
when you get to that point, you have a fork in the road. You either can go deny it and go down that path of who knows what, or you can embrace it. Like I said, it happens, evaluate it, and do something. Take empowered action. Because if you don't take action, it's not going to help you. All this theory, all this changes is not really going to help you because you're not acting on it. So that's
Yeah.
the key. Act.
Wow. Yep. No, that's really powerful. Thank you, Tomi.
Oh, you're
And
welcome.
yeah, and this is the and I think this whole summit and all our speakers and Tomi's highlighted this is it's about now that we know what is causing all this and has been contributing to it, it is time to say to yourself, I'm at the crossroads. What do I want to do for myself
Yes.
today so that my cup is overflowing, that I
Flowing.
can fill it up again, because in that overflow I can help others. I can be this person that I always wanted to be rather
Exactly.
than what I was told I should be.
Yes.
Um, and to break past those barriers and walls of trauma that we've had in our lives, and that we can actually reprogram ourselves, which is
Yeah.
so the
Beautiful.
the human body is just, we are so resilient. All we need to do is say yes.
Yeah. And I recently heard this used from someone else. Basically, our body is like a pharmacy. It
Hmm.
can heal itself, right? With
Yep.
help on the outside, but we have these, let's say, hormones that help do this, feel better, give you more oomph. Like our bodies are amazing,
Yep.
you know?
Exactly.
Our brains are amazing. But we do know
And
our brain is vulnerable.
yes.
Chronic stress can actually shrink your brain. Truly does.
Wow. Yep. Yep. I've heard that, but I think there's also scans to show it too, isn't
Yes,
it? That
there's objective evidence, 100%.
wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like you said, our body is a pharmacy, and our reactions to trauma and our experiences of that, and how we deal with it, we look at it, it's all the pharmaceutical things of our body going off in different directions. And when you come into a certain situation and it triggers you, as you said, with John having his supervisor reminding him of his mother, who told him he was not worthy enough in different ways, triggers all this, as you said, a cortisol response. And so what happens when you get triggered, I guess, Tomi, is that's what you were saying, is that right, that when John is coming across his supervisor and the supervisor says it in a certain way or a certain manner, he just, this whole cascade of chemicals get released from the
Yeah.
different parts of your body, and that's when you have your emotional response towards it.
Yes.
And
And take this, your emotional response can cause physical symptoms. abdominal pain, fatigue, right?
Right.
So that's why when someone comes to me saying they're fatigued, I'm not going to be like, oh, maybe you should sleep more. Yeah, I would say that, but we're going to dig deeper because there's
Yeah.
multiple causes of fatigue and they could be acting all at once,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep. I get it. Yeah, I know. It's fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, it's good to bring that all together with everyone here. Just again, bringing all together what we've discussed so far in the
Yeah.
summit. And I really love that. Thank you.
Oh my,
And I would love to know then, what programs you said you mentioned something. What programs do you currently have available for people? You mentioned you have this app too, which is really great. I would
yes.
love to know about that.
So right now I offer one-on-one coaching. So you get me for an hour and
Hmm.
it's over a year and a half. Now you can accelerate it and put it in through 90 days. But most people, they like to spread it out and really just take time to um, take empowered action, what we're teaching, right?
Yes.
So that's good. And then I also have the app, which you get on your phone, and you have the daily prompts. Every week you get a lesson, and we connect in a group. So that's my programs right now. Last year was different, but this is what I'm doing right now. I'm really passionate about the PQ um, exercises. I'm really passionate about mental fitness because we all need to improve it. And when we start, I give you a questionnaire, which two questionnaires. One which tells you what those negative things are, those judges, those saboteurs, whether it's a pleaser, the hyperachiever, the restless mind, right? It'll tell you where you stand and how strong they are. And then the
Mhm.
second test will tell you what percent of time do you spend in the negative side. And the tipping
Mhm.
point is 75%. That is the tipping point for when magic happens. So many people I found are, like 8, 25%, like 8 to 25. It's very common. So it's an
Right.
eye opener to them. It's like, wow, I'm spending, let's say, 92% of my time in the negative. And then when they reflect on the challenges and the conversations we've had on the surface, they're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Then we
Yep.
the work the real work begins.
Wow. Wow. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's fantastic. So I'm going to put your um that one. Yes. So those are all how you contact Tomi here, and it is what she's offering is absolutely amazing. And uh, really, also what struck home to me was that you're talking about a year and a half, and so we're talking about a time frame where a lot of people probably balk at and just go, wow, that's a long time. Shouldn't I be fixed in a month? um
It
and
takes 2 years to properly heal burnout.
two
2 years.
years and that's wow.
Two
Uh,
years.
on
On
average, and it.
our brains. 2 years.
Okay. So that's a really important point that we bring up. And we're not saying this because, oh yeah, come and join us and we'll coach you for two. That's not that's the
No.
reality. That is absolutely the reality that's happened to me. And it took me because it took me more than 2 years, to be honest, because I spent 50 years in the, no, well, as a child too, but
Yeah.
I spent decades in this.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to get better in a month. that's
No.
that's
No. Not at
kind of
all.
that's kind of like it's only enough to scratch the surface of, as you said, your client then was ready to work with his trauma as well. And that was the same with me. I had to get to a certain point where I had balanced my nervous system out, and
Yes.
then I was ready to work with the trauma, else I'll be re-traumatizing
Of
myself.
course. That's it's the same thing I did, right? So
Yep.
balance with nutrition, rest, like exercise, like check your medical history, make sure you don't have a thyroid imbalance, so you're not diabetic and you didn't realize. Like all those things are very important. That's part of the conversation I have with my clients because I'm a physician. I can use knowledge that is clearly available to everyone. So I'm not like being your doctor, but I'm basically saying this is what maybe you could talk to your doctor about,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
I want your doctor to make the final decision. But frankly, everyone's been like, "Oh my goodness, thank you." But
Mhm.
that's just what I
Yeah.
do.
Thank you. And you're so generous. Like you're so generous with your time, and also you are generous with your bonus that you're offering to
Yes.
the summit attendees. If you could
Yes.
let us know what it is, that would be fantastic.
Yes. So it'll be $500 off my group, my individual coaching package.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't put sales on these things. They just typically the price increases yearly a little bit. So
Yep.
that's that. Now I do have a cutoff for when you can use this. Like it's not going to be go on forever. So it's on
Yeah.
this.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I'm like, no. I said, I would say end of April of
Yep.
this year, book an initial consultation, right?
Okay.
So that
Yep.
gives you time and also the sense of urgency because if it's so easy for us to go default in our brain, I'm good, I'm fine. What's she talking about? I'm good. What are you talking about? I don't have money for that. But you don't realize that this is affecting your finances because you're not as effective, productive. You're not as happy. Your cortisol is going up. And then when you finally retire, cortisol bites you in the butt with people often get diagnosed with illnesses. And that's when they need more
Yeah.
medical help, right?
Yep.
I've seen it. I've been a physician for over a decade. We'll say that. So,
Mm.
yeah, so it's $500. Just mention you are at this burnout conference and till the end of April. So that gives
Okay.
you a few weeks to just over a month to get going.
Yep. So I'll put that in the website for people to access, and also in the emails on the bonuses. If
Yes.
you've registered for the summit, that will be in there. And also, I will put in Tomi's coaching calendar, so you can go in and book a time. And from my bottom of my heart, Tomi, you have brought up some subjects which make us aware of what has brought us down our different paths,
Yes.
whether it be stress, burnout, or even if you're not either of them, to be aware of our patterns in our behavior. Why are we behaving certain ways? Why do some people just make us really angry or
Yes.
sad?
Yes.
And to analyze that, and it's probably 99% of what have we experienced and how we've attached certain emotional things to it.
Exactly.
It is not wrong. There's no judgment, because there's pure love and compassion that comes out of it. And Tomi's brought that out so beautifully in what she said. Thank you, Tomi.
Thank you. You're welcome. My pleasure.
And and so if you know someone where this interview would really touch their lives, please share it with them. This is a free resource for you, for as long as you have it, and you can watch this over again just to remind yourself on those very special things that you are. You are very special, and you are loved, and you are supported in every way.
Thank you. I want to add one thing because I know many are maybe challenged financially. I do offer where you can pay it over time, and I don't charge you interest or any of that stuff. So you
Yep.
might be thinking, "Oh my goodness, I don't have money up front." Don't worry, we can figure out something that will work for you.
Okay,
So
that's
add that.
that adds to your beautiful generosity. Thank you,
Oh,
Doctor. And thank you,
you're
Tomi.
welcome.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much from me, Vanessa Mollard, and from Dr. Tomi Mitchell, and for all of us from the Energized Empowered Professional Women Summit. Much love. Thank you for tuning in. Take care.